Hey everyone, so today we are going to be making this character. We call her Ballerina Cuppacina. I think you guys know who she is. Quite adorable once you've actually put it together. I'm not a fan of brain rot, but this is kind of cute. So let us get straight into it so that you can make her as well. For the materials today, you're going to need the following. So you're going to need 4-ply cotton yarn in the colors brown, baby pink, and also this cream colored yarn. You can also grab some black colored yarn just to make the eyebrows and any other smaller details like eyelashes later on if you'd like to. Now, feel free, if you don't have 4-ply cotton yarn and you're used to a different type of yarn, you should be able to use it just fine because this pattern should be universal. For 4-ply cotton yarn though, I usually use a 1.9mm hook, but again, feel free to use the hook and yarn that you are used to. We're also going to need some fiber filling, of course, and then you will need some 6 or 7mm black safety eyes, as you can see here. You will also need a pair of cutters and a needle. Now, in this case, I have a leather needle and it's quite sharp, but it fits through all of those stitches so perfectly. If you don't have one of these, use a sewing needle and also a tapestry needle should be fine, though having something with a sharper end will be a lot easier to use. So those are the materials. Let us get right into making Ballerina Cuppacina. So we're going to start off by using our cream colored yarn, and all you want to do is just make a magic ring. So let us make this magic ring now, and if you don't know how to make this, I have a beginner crochet tutorials playlist that you can check out, learn a bunch of these simple techniques, and then come back and you'll be ready to complete any one of my tutorials. So we're making the magic ring, and then we're going to make or work 6 single crochet stitches inside this. So I've just done one right there, but I'm going to show you something that's going to be useful for you if you are making amigurumi plushies in the future. So I would recommend having the yarn come underneath the hook first. We call that yarn under, and then have the yarn go over the hook second as you pull it through those 2 loops on the hook. So we call that yarn under / yarn over, or YU/YO. So feel free to check out this video over here. I've linked it in so that you can see the differences between the different types of single crochet stitches. And one last thing, as you make these single crochet stitches, try to have your hook vertically aligned. So as you're pulling up this thread or yarn through those 2 loops, you want to pull your crochet hook as vertical as possible, and that just helps to align your stitches. So we have 4 single crochet stitches here. We're going to make number 5 and finally number 6. Then we're going to pull this yarn tail here, and then we are going to insert our hook in the very first stitch. So here's our very first stitch, but you want to get in both those front and back loops. And either you can crochet in a spiral at this point, or you can wait until you get to the head or cup section to start crocheting in a spiral. I'm going to finish each round with a slip stitch and chain 1 for this tutorial video right here. But feel free to work in a spiral. You may just have to adjust your arm stitches later on. Okay, so round 2, we are up to round 2 right now, and this is how it's going to go. So you're going to start off with making an increase in every single stitch space. So an increase just means 2 single crochet stitches inside the 1 stitch space, as you can see here. So let's show you again. So we've got 1 single crochet stitch, and then we have in the same stitch space the second. So right now we have already completed 2 increases. So I'm going to repeat this now another 4 times so that at the end of round number 2 we will have a total of 12 stitches in the round. Round 2 is now complete, and I'm just finishing with a slip stitch and chain 1, as you can see there. Okay, so round number 3 is the following: single crochet stitch first, followed by an increase. There we go. So let's do it again. Single crochet stitch first, followed by an increase. And you want to repeat that a total of 6 times. We have 4 left to go, and we will have 18 stitches after round number 3. We are up to round number 4, and we're going to do the following. We need to work our feet in this round, but I will show you how to do that every step of the way. So let's start with making 5 single crochet stitches. So that's 1, here's the second, here's the third, here is the 4th, and here's the 5th. But before we complete the 5th stitch right here, I want you to grab your light or baby pink colored yarn, have your yarn tail under here, and then pull it through those 2 loops on the hook, and that's at the end of the 5th stitch of the 4th round. From here, can you see this is the next working stitch? But instead of going there, we want to come directly below into this other stitch space that's just 1 round below. So that there is called the spike, but we are going to be making a spike bubble stitch. So in order to complete this bubble stitch, you have to wrap the yarn first, then come into that elongated stitch space section, pull up the yarn and pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook, and that gives you 2 loops left on the hook. Then if you repeat that, so wrap the yarn, come into the same stitch space, pull up the yarn like that and pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook, and now we have 3 loops on the hook right there. So let's do it one more time. Wrap the yarn, pull up the yarn and pull through 2. You're left with 4 loops on the hook right here, and you're going to grab your cream colored yarn and then pull it through those 4 loops on the hook. Now at this point, you are going to make another 5 single crochet stitches, and before you do that, in the first single crochet stitch, I want you to wrap that baby pink colored yarn over the hook so you can weave it in and just secure it a little bit in place, only for 1 stitch. So here's number 2, here's number 3, here's number 4, and finally number 5 again. And we're going to grab our baby pink colored yarn at this point, and we're going to pull that through our 2 loops on the hook. And then in the same way, we're not working here. We are coming down here in the spike section, wrapping the yarn first. As we do that, pull up the yarn, pull through 2, wrap the yarn, pull up the yarn again, and pull through 2, wrap the yarn, come in that same space, pull up the yarn and pull through 2 once more. 4 loops on the hook right there. Change your yarn color back to cream, pull it through all 4 loops on the hook, and then you'll be left with 6 single crochet stitches to finish round number 4. And just for that very first stitch, after that spike bubble stitch, have that baby pink colored yarn over the hook. So there we go. It only needs to be done for 1 stitch at that point. Okay, let's complete these stitches, single crochet stitches. So that's our 3rd one. Here is number 4, number 5, and finally number 6. Finish off with a slip stitch and chain 1, and you can start to push these the right way around as well. So now you can see, here are the feet. For the 5th round now, super simple. We are just making 18 single crochet stitches for this entire round, and that's it. So that's the 5th round, making 18 single crochet stitches. We are currently up to the 18th stitch here in this 5th round, and what you're going to do is change the yarn color to baby pink at this exact position. There we go. And then we're going to complete the round with a slip stitch and chain 1. But as you make that slip stitch, I want you to put that cream colored yarn over the hook just to secure it in place. Slip stitch is now done and chain 1. Okay, so we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds. So for round number 6, all I want you to do is make 18 single crochet stitches. So we're working in both those front and back loops. Nothing special about this round. It's super simple, just your 18 single crochet stitches. And just a reminder to keep that hook as vertical as possible as you're pulling those stitches, as you're pulling the yarn through. And we are now up to round number 7. So this is how we're looking so far. So for round number 7, I want you to be working inside the back loops only. So as you can see, each stitch has a front and a back loop. And I just want your hooks to enter or to be inserted into the back loops only. And then you're just making 18 single crochet stitches again. So just remember, it's going to be in those back loops only, because later on we're going to use those front loops. So complete those 18 single crochet stitches in the round to complete round number 7 in the back loops only. Round number 8. Now you may be tempted to cut this, but just leave it at the moment because we will need to use this color a little bit later on. So for round number 8, you're just working 18 single crochet stitches in the round, and that's it for round number 18. And now we're up to round number 19. So round number 19 is where we are going to introduce the hand/arms. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to start off with 4 single crochet stitches. So here's number 2, here's number 3, and finally number 4. But before we finish the 4th, we are going to change yarn colors to our cream colored yarn, just like that. And then in the same way as the foot, we're going to wrap the yarn. We're not coming in this stitch space right here. Instead, we're coming down here, 1 round below. So come here, have the pink yarn over the hook just so you can secure that pink yarn in place. And then pull up the yarn, pull through 2, and repeat that another 2 times. Sorry for my voice, I'm a little bit sick at the moment. So let's do it one more time. Pull up that yarn and pull through 2. We now have 4 loops on the hook, and we are going to change our yarn color back to baby pink and pull through all 4 loops on the hook. Now from here, we are going to make 7 single crochet stitches in baby pink. So 1, 2, and I've just woven in that cream colored yarn for a couple of those stitches. It doesn't have to be many, so I've just done 2 right there. Let's make the 3rd single crochet stitch, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we are not going to complete this with baby pink, and by the way, if I'm just going a little bit too fast for you, feel free to pause the video and then complete those steps and unpause when you're ready. Okay, we're going to change our yarn color on that 7th stitch to cream, just like that. And then in the same way, we are going to make the 2nd arm right now. And by the way, if you are crocheting in a spiral, feel free to adjust where these arms go, because it may not align perfectly if your stitches are also not aligned. So just be wary of that. Okay, so wrap the yarn, come into this lower or elongated stitch space down here. Pull up the yarn, pull through 2, wrap the yarn, pull up the yarn, pull through 2, and wrap the yarn once more, same space your hook enters into, and pull through 2. 4 loops are left on the hook, and it's at this point we change our yarn color back to baby pink and pull it through just like that. Okay, so we are now going to finish off these stitches. There should be 5 left, so we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch, and by the way, I had the cream colored yarn on top of the hook as I work that stitch, just like that, as you can see. Here's number 2, and we can work it all the way to the end now. 3, 4, and number 5, just like that. Slip stitch, and chain 1, and that is the end of round number 9. For round number 10, we are still changing yarn colors, and we are going to introduce a type of decrease, and it's called an invisible decrease. So you're going to start off by just making a single crochet stitch first, and then you want to make an invisible decrease. And as we do that, this is how it goes. You want to work your hook through the front loop of the first stitch, and then the front loop again of that 2nd stitch space. So then pull the yarn through and pull the yarn through to complete that invisible decrease. You've just made 2 stitches in the round previous into now 1. And then you're just going to repeat that again. So single crochet stitch followed by invisible decrease, front loop, pull the yarn through. And usually you'd pull this yarn through to complete that stitch, but we're going to change our yarn color now to cream. So let us change at this point. There we go. When you're working with this cream colored yarn, I now want you to work inside the back loops only. So here's the first back loop, single crochet stitch, and then we are going to work something called, well, it's another type of decrease, and this is how it goes. So you're going to work your hook or insert your hook in the back loop, and you're going to pull up a loop of yarn. Then you're going to insert your hook through the next adjacent stitch, and then pull up another loop. So now you have technically 3 loops on the hook, and then just pull the yarn through all 3. And we call that single crochet 2 together. So you just learned 2 different types of decreases here, which is amazing. Back loop again, single crochet stitch, and then we're going to do the exact same thing, single crochet 2 together. So back loop only, pull up a loop, back loop only again in the next stitch space, pull up a loop, and then we change our yarn color at this point. So just move that back, and we'll change it to baby pink, pull through all 3 loops, and then back loop only, single crochet stitch, and then here, actually, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. So what I want you to do here is you don't have to worry about those back loops anymore, so you can actually go through the front and back loops with the baby pink colored yarn. So you're going to make a single crochet stitch first, followed by your invisible decrease, front loop, pull yarn through, and one more time just to finish this off, single crochet stitch first, and then an invisible decrease, front loop, pull the yarn through, the front loop, pull the yarn through, and then we'll change our yarn color to cream, just like that. Then we're going to come into our very first stitch space of that round, have the baby pink yarn come on top of the hook, make a slip stitch, and chain 1. Okay, and just make sure you're not pulling this too tight as well, because you want to be able to stretch and add your cotton or fiber filling inside your body later on. Okay, so at this point we are up to round number 11, and here is how it's going to go. You're going to start by working only in the back loops. Start with a single crochet stitch. Next, you're going to work an increase 1, same stitch space in the back loop only. There's the increase, and you're just going to do this throughout the entire 11th round. Single crochet stitch first, back loop only, increase 1 and 2, just like that. From here you don't have to work in the back loops, but I kind of like to anyway. So single crochet stitch followed by increase, and it's at this point you can actually chop off your baby pink colored yarn because we don't want that anymore. And then you're just going to complete this round doing the same pattern, that is single crochet stitch followed by increase, and I'm just going to go back because I want to get in those back loops. Sometimes I forget. So back loops only, single crochet followed by an increase 1 and 2, and let's do it again to finish this off. So back loop only, single crochet stitch, then another back loop only increase, and one more to finish round number 11, single crochet stitch first in the back loop, and final increase in the back loop to finish this off. Now from this point onwards, I'm going to be crocheting in a spiral. I'm not going to finish now with a slip stitch and chain 1, so just be aware of that. So it really means that as I come into this stitch space right here, I'm going to start round number 12 immediately. And this is round number 12 now. So for round number 12, we're going to do the following. Make a single crochet stitch first, another single crochet stitch, followed by an increase. So did you see we've worked 2 single crochet stitches, 1 and 2, plus an increase. And that's the pattern I want you to repeat now another 4 times, and you will have a total of 24 stitches after round number 12. Round number 13 is now complete, and if you need to use a stitch marker, please do so. You can use anything as a stitch marker, even a piece of cotton thread. You can kind of wrap it under here as you work the stitch, but you'd have to have it like over here first. So for example, the cotton yarn comes on top of here and then you enter your hook, and so that indicates that this here would be the very first stitch of the next round. So as you can see here. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is the following. We work 3 single crochet stitches, so this is 1, 2, here's the third, plus an increase, 1 and 2. Let's do it again. 3 single crochet stitches, 1, 2, 3, plus an increase, 1, and same stitch space number 2. So do that another 4 times to complete round number 13. And now the next 5 rounds, so that's rounds 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, you are just going to be making 30 single crochet stitches in the round. So that's the next 5 rounds of 30 single crochet stitches. And remember to keep that hook as vertical as possible so you can keep those stitches aligned as best as possible as well. Okay, so we've just finished that 5th round of our 30 single crochet stitches. So there we go. This is what it's looking like. Super cute. And remember, we didn't finish on a slip stitch and chain 1 this time. So now all you want to do is come into the very next stitch space and just make a slip stitch, and that kind of just evens it out a little bit better. Then you're going to pull the yarn through and cut yourselves a little bit of a yarn tail. You're not going to need that yarn tail, but what you do want to do is kind of weave it inside or along the top like that. So we might do that a little bit later. We'll leave it first up here, and I might end up putting it around here and then on the inside, but we'll work on that later. So now what I want you to do, this is kind of half the body complete. So now we're going to do this tutu part, as you can see here. So let's do that now. First of all, you're going to turn the plushie upside down, and then you're going to find your back and the back center, and then here's that slip stitch, chain 1. If you don't have that, just find any loop, and it's this loop right here. So technically we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the 6th round that we're working in the front loop only. And what I want you to do with this baby pink colored yarn, you're going to pull it through that loop. And then you're just going to chain 1, just like that. And now in each of these front loops on round 6, and as we do this, we're going to have the yarn tail over the hook just for a couple of these stitches. We are going to make the following. We're going to make 3 single crochet stitches inside the same stitch space. So that's 2. And here is number 3. So can you see that? We just worked 3 single crochet stitches inside that front loop. And we're going to do that for every single front loop of this round number 6. So in round number 6 there were 18, so that's technically 18 times 3. So I want you guys to do that, and then we'll come back and slip stitch chain 1 once we've finished this round. So we've just finished that round. Right now we have total 54 stitches in the round. I'm coming into the very first stitch that we made. It might be a little bit hard to see, but it's right there, and then we make a slip stitch right there and chain 1, and then from here all we're going to do is make single crochet stitches all the way around. So that's a total of 54 single crochet stitches for round number 2 of this tutu. And round 2 is now finished there. I've just made a slip stitch, and I'm going to pull the yarn through and leave a little bit of a yarn tail. We will weave this in later on, and remember we already wove this one, so we can get right to the edge of that and just cut it off. Okay, so we have just finished our little tutu right here, and what I would recommend at this point is just adding the body, just the body part, not the head yet, with some fiber filling. So grab your fiber filling, and I want you to add it layer upon layer, and use a pair of cutters or something to kind of compress it in there, and that way you're taking out all of the space and the air bubbles or whatnot. There's not really any air bubbles, but you know what I mean. You want to kind of compress that fiber filling as best as you can inside the body there. So I'll let you do that just for the body. So there we go. I've just filled up the body section there with some fiber filling, and we're looking great with the tutu. Let's now add the eyes. By the way, guys, if you want super cute eyes, I would suggest using maybe 8 or 9mm black safety eyes. But remember at the beginning, I did say 6mm or 7mm, and that's what this looks like. This is 6mm black safety eyes. This is 9mm. Completely up to you what size eyes you want to put in here. And just to let you know, the eyes are placed between rounds 15 and 16. As you can see, I've inserted it between rounds 15 and 16 there. This is about 2 and a little bit stitch spaces apart in between, and it kind of is the same for this. So any of the eyes that you have, ensure that you have at least 2 and maybe just a little bit more, 2 and a little bit stitch spaces between the eyes there. And here I've just added the back supporting section to the eyes as well and held that on there, so I'll push that through. Now the eyes are completely secure. Okay, so from here we're going to start with the brown top section here. So what I want you to do is grab yourself some brown colored yarn and start off with a magic ring. So let's do that together. So magic ring is now complete, and just work 6 single crochet stitches inside this magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and number 6 is right here. And I'm going to teach you a little bit of a trick here. So pull this yarn tail to close that magic ring, and what we are going to do is, first of all, you can crochet in a spiral, or you can finish off with single slip stitch and chain 1. I'm going to crochet in a spiral at this point. So what I want you to do is come to the very first stitch space, which is right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I want you to have this yarn tail over the top of the hook, and that just really secures it in place as you're working the next round, if that makes sense. So we're going to pull this through and make an increase in this stitch space, and still always have this yarn tail over the hook for the next couple of stitches. So there's your first increase right there. Then you're going to make the second increase. So again, have that yarn tail over the top of the hook as you make those increases all the way around, and you will have a total of 12 stitches after round number 2. Feel free to use a stitch marker as well if you're going to get a little bit lost here without it. So as you can see, I'm kind of weaving in that yarn tail as I go, and usually 3 increases is enough, and then we can leave this away. So I've got 3 more increases to go to finish round number 2. Round number 2 is now complete for me, so we're going to start round number 3, which is just a single crochet stitch followed by an increase, 1 and 2, and I want you to repeat that a total of 6 times. So we have another 5 to go, and we will have 18 stitches at the end of round number 3. And round number 4 will just be 2 single crochet stitches first, followed by an increase, and you're going to repeat that a total of 6 times for 24 stitches at the end of round number 4. And finally, round number 5 will just be 3 single crochet stitches, 2, 3, followed by an increase, and you will repeat that another 5 times for 30 stitches after round number 5. And we've just finished round number 5, and I want you to come into the very next stitch space and just work a slip stitch to kind of level that off as best as possible, and then pull the yarn through and give yourselves around about a 30/40 centimeter yarn tail there, because we'll need this yarn tail to start sewing this onto the top of our cup, as you can see here. So let's do that now. Okay, so I've got myself my leather needle. If you have a sewing needle, please use a sewing needle, or if you do have a leather needle, definitely work with a leather needle. These are amazing, by the way. I couldn't recommend them more. Okay, so what I want you to do is actually, I want you to come through the very next stitch space. Okay, so you can see the next stitch space after that slip stitch, and you're just going to come through there like that. Now, where you can see this slip stitch over here, I actually want you to work, first of all, come like 1 or 2 stitches away from it, and then I want you to kind of turn this so you can see the inside. Here's the front loop. Well, technically that's the front loop, right? But if we turn it this way, this now becomes our front loop, which was originally our back loop. But I don't want you to come inside this back loop. Instead, you're going to tilt this even further. And can you see these ridges? I'm just going to poke my needle through all of these as I see them. We're just going to go through all of these ridges down here. 1, 2, 3. Here's the 4th one over here. And then keep going. Number 5, number 6. I'm just putting my needle through them so you can see them. There's right at the back there. That's what we're going to work through around this cup or mug. No, it's a cup. Okay, so we've already put our yarn through this spot. And now, as I said, you're working a couple of stitch spaces away from that slip stitch, just because we don't want those slip stitches to line up. So you can even do it over here if you want. And I'm going to come into this ridge and pull that yarn through just like that. And so I worked here just previously, so my yarn came through here, so I'm going to my next stitch space, which is over here, and for that we're working in the front and back loops of the brown circle, and then only into that little ridge spot underneath each stitch as you work all the way around. So I want you to do that now. Complete it about 3/4, and then we'll come back because then we need to fill up the rest of this with fiber filling. So 3/4 first, just completing that same pattern. So remember, we just pulled it through this one, so now we're coming to the next front and back loop stitch of our single crochet stitch in the brown, and then we come behind on that little ridge section of our cup and pull that through just like that. And we are going to continually do that 3/4 of the way, and then we'll come back together and start filling this up. So guys, as you're doing that, this is what it's looking like now, as you can see here. So we're looking really, really good, and we're still working in those back ridges down here, and it just exposes those front and back loops over here. Now what you need to do is you need to start adding fiber filling. But you don't want to overfill it because you don't want it to look like this once you've sewed it all together. So just ensure that there's enough there so that this part can kind of lean flat as best as possible. So I'll let you add the fiber filling and just do it layer by layer, and use a pair of cutters to kind of condense it in there as best as you can. So this is what I've got so far, and remember, you can always add some as you're closer to the end as well if you just feel like finding it a little bit difficult because it's in the way to continue sewing over here. But you want to make sure it's relatively firm down here but not pushing up too much at the top over here. So I'm going to let you now continue to sew all the way to the end, and go past those slip stitches as well until you finish right up to the end there, and then we'll just sew these in to hide them as well, and add fiber filling as you go if you need to as well. So I'm just working through this last one right here, as you can see, and I think that looks pretty good. So what we'll do at that point, you can even just secure this last one as well. So I'm just coming in here. Sorry for my sniffles, by the way, I do apologize. And then I'm just going to come straight down here. I'm going to come out anywhere, it doesn't really matter. Pull this through. This is relatively flat, which I'm loving at this point. So this is looking really, really good. And then I'll just push this through and then come up over here. And then can you see how we have kind of this X created by every single crochet stitch we made, and we have this diagonal going around here? So I'm going to follow that diagonal as I weave this through, and then I'm going to come up over here, and I'm not going to pull this too tight, it's just going to be exactly enough. And then again here, I'm going to come across this diagonal. I kind of just line up those stitches as best as possible so the weaving appears like you can't even see it, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so we're going to continue doing this now, just like maybe 3 times in total, something like that. And once you've done all of that, you want to chop the yarn right there, and then that is the completion of your Ballerina Cuppacina. Oh, not everything just yet, but I mean the body, which is wonderful. So we're going to weave these yarn tails in, and then we're going to finish up with a little nose, maybe some eyebrows, and of course we also need to make the handle, which I'll teach you that technique in just a moment. And this is actually a pretty secure handle as well, it's not flimsy or floppy, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So let us weave the yarn tails in first. So you can see here I have the needle coming at the back of this tutu, and then I'm just going to pull it through the back right there, and you can weave it across the opposite direction if you'd like, but mine is secure, so I'm going to pull this, chop right near that edge, and then that is nicely secured there. And let's do this one now. So here we go, I've got my yarn tail here, and I'm just going to go across actually, and then I'm going to come out anywhere where there is cream yarn. So I'm just going to come across and give that a little bit of a pull. And then in the same way, I'm going to find that cross, come to that diagonal and go over that. And I'm going to find those, or do that a few times. So there's 1, here's 2, maybe 2 is actually enough just because I don't have enough yarn tail to do anymore. So there's 2. So I'm happy with that. That is nicely secure now. And there we go. So that's the completion of the body. Let us now complete the mug or the cup handle. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I want you to grab your 4-ply cotton yarn, and I want you to just cut around about 1 meter worth of it. And then I want you to do the exact same thing with another piece. And so that way you can put those 2 pieces together, which increases that thickness of the yarn. Technically now it's 8-ply. And now I want you to find kind of the midway point between those 2. So that's the midway point for me, as you can see here. And then, as you would normally, I want you to create a slip knot with those 2 pieces of cotton yarn that are next to each other right now. Okay, so this is what we're looking like so far. It's just a normal slip knot. Now you might be wondering, why is there such a long tail down here? And we're going to use that, and you'll see here in just a moment. I want you to use this tail down here to wrap over the top of the hook, and then just hold right down here. And then you're going to weave this yarn through that. So I'm going to do it again because we want to do this nicely. So we're going to push this through, and you want to get all of it. So those are those 2 strands technically. So you just want to take this slow. I'm just kind of working my hook. The first one's always the trickiest, by the way. So make sure you're taking your time. I'm going to do it again. It's a little bit harder underneath the camera just because I'm in an awkward position trying to do this. So I'm going to make it a little bit looser this time, just so I can see if I can grab that hook and pull it all the way through. There we go. That looks way better. So there's 1, okay? And you're just going to keep repeating this technique. Actually, people do this to make bracelets and stuff as well. So here's number 2. Here will be number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Yarn over. Number 6. Number 7. I'm just going to see how this looks right now. So here's number 7. I think we need a few more. So that's number 7. Maybe here's number 8. And we'll do 1 more. So 9 in total. And you might just need to adjust that. If it's too big for you, then make small. Make it like 8, 7. And if it's too small, did I say that right? If it's too large, make it smaller. If it's too small, make it larger. Okay, then we're going to weave the yarn through to finish that off, just like that. So we've got a little bit of a cup thing going on. At least we can shape it as such. So it's looking like this. And then all we need to do is kind of adjust it here so it's looking like this. And we are going to sew this on now using this. So in this time, you're going to want a type of tapestry needle where the eye of the needle is a little bit larger. That way you can fit your 2 strands through it. So find a tapestry needle at this point. Okay, so what I have done here is I found the longest strand at this point, and I've woven it through my leather needle. In your case, if you don't have a leather needle, use a tapestry needle. And then you're going to find the side of this cup, and use some pins if you want to hold this in place as well. You just want to come to the side as best as you can. And then what I want you to do is have that yarn needle come through the top portion of this, and then we'll come just straight across in that same stitch, if that makes sense. And I'm going to pull this through just like that, and then I'm going to come up this end like this, pull that through. You may need to give it a little bit of a tug as well. Don't get your yarn tails tangled. And then come straight back down into that same stitch space. I hope you can see that. And then come back through the other side. Pull nice and tight, but don't break your yarn. And then I'm going to come back through here one last time. Give it a little bit of a tug to get it through, and then go straight down here as well. And then where it lines up down here, So you can see mine is lining up down here to give it a little bit of a nice angle. So I want to directly come down to this stitch space right down here. As you can see that. I'm going to pull this through, give it a little bit of a tug as well. And in the same way, this time I'm coming through this side first, giving it a little bit of a pull. And then I'm going to come straight back into the stitch and come across. Just like that. And then I'm going to come up the other side now. Sometimes you really do need to give it a little bit of a tug as well, just to get that yarn through. And I'm just going to come straight back here again, just to secure this nicely. I want it to look good. And then I'll come back around here again. Just working through these stitch spaces. And then come straight back here. And then I'm going to come out maybe over here, just like that, to finish it off. Okay, so that's what we're looking like so far. Now you can reposition these as well. It's completely up to you and how you want to do it. I could have brought this further down and this one further down and this one further down, or, you know, whatever works out best for you. Okay, so with these two strands now, you're just going to come directly here and then pop your needle straight through at this stitch space as well. And as you can see, I have those two yarn tails now coming out at that stitch space, and we do that on purpose so that we can tie these two strands together. As you can see here, I'm going to tie it in a double knot, and I'm going to pull harder on that second knot as well, just so it's nice and secure. And once we've done that, I'm going to cut the top over here just like that, and then I'm going to grab my yarn needle and push this knot back inside my mug. Keep saying mug, but, well, it can't be a mug. I'm going to push it in. Let's try and push that in. There we go. And hide it away and just hold that mug handle just like that. And let's finish this off just by making a few highlights over here and a nose. So all I'm going to do here is just use 2-ply cotton yarn, and this just makes it a little bit thinner. And then I'll grab my same sewing or leather needle, and I'm going to weave this through just like that. And now we're going to start making the eyelashes. So I'm going to come at any point and then come to where, so maybe I'll come up here first because we're going to go backwards just so I can get in this stitch space over here. So I might start like maybe over here. That's kind of a little bit too of the center, maybe over here. This is why you want a sharp point as well, so you can get through these stitch spaces. So just like that, and then we're going to come across the side here, just a little bit to the side, come down, and then we're going to make some eyelashes that look like this. I'm going to come over here, and then we'll make a little bit of a longer one over here. Let's see if this works. One, if I pull that, no, that wouldn't work right there. So perhaps we can make it come back over here and push it out like that. And then we'll do the same for the other eye as well. So we'll start over here, remove that. So we've got one eyelash now, and then we'll come down here, work upwards first. So it's kind of like a little bit of a diagonal there. One, come back here, and then straight across. So there's the diagonal one, and then here will be straight across. And then we will go straight back over here in that stitch space. See what this looks like. Beautiful. And then you can even make eyebrows if you wanted to. Like, this is completely up to you how you want to do this, by the way. There's no right or wrong. You can add some blush, you can add a yarn chain, you can add a keychain. Completely up to you. I feel like if you got this far, you should be able to just kind of modify it the way that you want. This is just kind of like an example for you, but it's a great pattern, by the way. And guys, I have patterns all over Etsy. Go support me, go purchase a pattern that would absolutely make my day. And now let's just make the nose here so we can complete this and finish this off. So in the same way, I'm going to use this beige colored yarn again, and I'm going to create the nose, and I've just used 2-ply cotton yarn at the same time here. So we have our cotton yarn coming through. Well, we had 1 strand coming through. Let us do that again. So we've got our 2 little strands. We would call this now 2-ply yarn, and push it through, and there we go. And now we're going to have our yarn needle come over here, and I'm going to work in the center of these 2 eyes. So you can see I'm just working through 2 stitch spaces in a horizontal fashion, and I'm going to come across it twice. So there we go, that's twice now. And in fact, you could just finish it off like that because that's super easy. But if you wanted to make it a seamless look, you kind of weave under this across a few times. And that just really kind of makes it look cute. And you can't really see the 2 times that you went across it. So here it is. We're looking good. And I'll come straight back in here and then come over here. Pull that through. Now we've got a beautiful nose just like that, and then tie these 2 together in a double knot. I know that you guys have seen this several times now, how to secure the yarn. At least this is one way. Okay, so we're going to chop this now. This is in a double knot, nicely tied, nice and secure. Push this back in. You can also come through a different stitch and kind of push back and forward like that until it goes in. Now we have one last thing left to do. Did you think I forgot? Absolutely not. And this is what it is. We need to draw the little that little milk section, if you will. Okay, so let's do that now. So grab yourselves a good 40 centimeter piece worth of white cotton yarn and weave it through your sewing needle as well. Okay, so we're going to start off with the little heart. So you want to kind of find the center of the eyes at this point, and then we'll come up either here or here. It completely is up to you, by the way. There's no like perfect way of doing this, but we're going to insert our yarn first. Find kind of the center point between those 2 eyes as best as possible. It may not be completely accurate. And then what you're going to do is the following. So we're going to make the little heart at the top. You want your yarn needle to enter back into that space and then come up 2 stitch spaces above and a little bit on the diagonal. So this is one, and don't pull it all the way through. Have the yarn needle go through that, then like that, and then it will come straight into that same stitch space and back to that center part where you initially entered into. Move that yarn tail, give it a little pull, and there you go. So that's one. And there we go. So we've entered back into here. I kind of just moved it across, but we're back at that same spot. So now I'm going to enter my yarn needle over here, and then I'm going to come up here this time. And you probably see that we're kind of making a little bit of a heart at the top. There we go. So that's looking great. And then we're going to come 1 stitch space below that, kind of centered as best as we can. Just like that, and keep pushing this down as you go. And now we're going to just create a little bit of a diagonal line right here. So here's one. And then we'll do the same on the other side, and then come down 1 stitch space below again, and as straight as possible when you come down below. So I could have even put that one right there if I wanted to, which I may just do that now. Something else that you may want to do that might be helpful as well is if you come to the side and then you find where you want to come on the other side, and then you find that mid section. So you can either create it in lines like I was doing before, or you can do it this way. So you're finding the side first and then coming straight to the middle at the end there. So we might just do 1 or 2 more like this, so pulling it like that. That's what we're looking like so far. and then it'll come up straight over here, come right in the center again, and come below this. I'm just gonna have a quick look at what this is looking like. We're looking pretty good. This one could have probably come up just a little bit more there. But you can see this takes a little bit of time, and you might want to pin it in place as well as you do it. It's completely up to you. So let us do maybe 1 or 2 more just to finish this off. Just like that. And then I'm coming up to around about this section right here. Over here. Just like that. Might come up over here actually this time, and then pull this down. And that there, I want to say, looks great. Well, as great as possible. So we're gonna leave it like that. You guys can design however you want to do yours, but that's what mine looks like so far. And I'm just gonna have my white cotton yarn come out at the same stitch space, so that in the same way you can see that we tie these 2 pieces together in a double knot. Here is the first, followed by the second, and give a little bit of a tug on that second one just to really secure it. And then cut your yarn and push this in to hide. And that there is our finished Ballerina Cuppacina, as you can see here. So we've got 2 different types, but the same pattern, just different size eyes. And you guys can do the embroidery here as you deem fit, but that's just one example or one way of doing it, as you can see here. I really hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and I hope you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks guys, bye!